Hey everybody, I'm Jordan with Warpfire Minis, and it's time for a 4th edition battle report. So here it is, we're going for it, our first 4th edition battle report. And what we're doing is we're just running back that Skaven versus Lumineth Masterclass that GW put out. So we're using the same 2 exact lists. We're using all the information we know from all the different articles they put out, and then from just analyzing that game and talking to other people in the community. So we're going to make a couple mistakes, but it's going to give us a real good idea what 4th edition games are going to feel like, so here we go. So here we are. This is what deployment looked like, and I'll run you through the units real quick so you know what's going on. On the Lumineth side of things, he's got one squad of 5 Hurricane Wind Chargers, another squad of 10 of those guys. They're just super fast. They move 14 inches. Lumineth's whole shtick with the Wind Temple Facet of War is that they can shoot and then move again after shooting. So moving 14, shooting, and then moving another 14, very powerful. And then also their shooting damage ignores wards. So like my Vermin Lord, the Warp Seer here, he's got a 5-up ward. They're going to just totally ignore that. Then he's got 2 units of 10 Stone Guard. And these guys, they're 2 wounds each. They ignore 1 point of my rend coming in for being the Stone Temple stuff. And now they went from damage 1 to damage 2 on their hammers. So they can hit pretty hard. We've got Severth, also Wind Temple thing. He moves 18, can shoot, and then move another 18. Then he also has the ability to run and shoot and or charge. And he gives that to the Kangaroos if they're wholly within 12 of him. So he can run, then shoot, then move, then charge. Like just a ton of movement abilities for that Wind Temple. And then his shooting attacks are really, really good. He does 4 attacks. They hit on 2s, wound on 3s. Rend 3 and D3 plus 1 damage. So for this edition, Rend 3 is pretty rare. So he's going to be hitting pretty hard whenever he hits. Then we've got Avalanor, also ignoring 1 point of Rend, hits like a truck. And then we've got a Stone Mage. That's his general in this list, just a spell cast, and then he can pick 1 stone unit wholly within 12 of him in the combat phase. And on a 3-up, he can give them an additional point of Rend. So those little hammer guys, they're going to go from Rend 1 to Rend 2. And really get that damage through. For the Skaven side, I've got 2 units of 20 Clan Rats. Just chaff, they get the D3 back at the end still. Just great bodies on objectives. We got the Vermin Lord Warp Seer. Damage-wise, he doesn't do much, but he does add 2 inches to our 3 Claw Steps movement, which will be big. And then he's got a cool spell with the 18-inch range where I pick a unit, and then whenever they make charge rolls, they roll 1 less dice. So instead of a 2d6 charge, it'll be a 1d6 charge. Then we got a unit of 6 Jezzails, and they're just really good shooting damage. At a long range, they can go 24 inches. And 2 Smallfoot heroes, a Master Molder. He can help give the Molder units +2 to their charge, and heal them at the end of the turn. And then a Warlock Engineer. He's got his own little shooting attack. He's kind of like a Jezzail himself. And he can let the Jezzails and himself shoot into heroes, even if they're within 3 inches of other units. Then for the Skaven list as well, we have 2 units of 3 Storm Fiends and Deep Strike. And in the Masterclass video, he ran them as the shooty versions. In this one, I'm running them as the melee version with the Grinder Fists and the Doomflayer Gauntlets. And the Grinder Fist lets them Deep Strike in at the end of any movement phase. So I can bring them at the end of my opponent's movement, which is a cool little trick. And then I've got 1 Hell Pit Abomination also in Deep Strike. Before deployment, we had to roll a dice to see Attacker and Defender. And we were both 3 drops. I won the roll, and so I chose to deploy first. And so my deployment here, I deployed like I'm going to go first. I think that for 4th edition, that's probably going to be the more popular move. At the start of the battle round, I also get to place down a Gnaw Hole. And so we take this one, we put it over here next to this objective. And then we'll jump into Skaven top of 1. First thing you do is choose a battle tactic. And turn 1, the people going first, more often than not, they're going to choose Seize the Center. Right now is the easiest time to do it, so that's what we do. And from there, we just jump straight into the hero phase where we're casting spells. It's really nice not to have to worry about heroic actions and primal dice and all that other stuff. So we're zooming. For spells, I don't know my whole spell lore yet. And my 1 spell I do know has an 18-inch range. So can't cast any spells that I know. And I'm going to save it anyways, just in case my opponent tries to cast a spell on my turn. And he does. He spends a CP to try and get Protection of Hishep, which will give his units a 5-up ward. And he rolls it, and he fails. That -1 to cast penalty you get came into play here, and he didn't get it off. Now that spells are over, we just jump straight into movement. And for this mission, you score 1 point for holding your home, 2 points each for holding the center objectives, and then 5 points if you take your opponent's objective. Taking the opponent's this turn isn't going to happen, so we start out by just running these clan rats up onto this objective. Then we're going to run this Warlock Engineer for my battle tactic to get up here by the center. And then I'm going to run a squad of clan rats up here as well. Alright, so then moving the clan rats, I ended up building a little bubble around this Warlock Engineer. And that was important because of all those new commands. I'm going to be at risk of these Stone Guard potentially charging me, but that's going to be an 11-inch charge. It's going to cost him 2 CP. He's likely not going to do it. But he could redeploy Severith and move up. And if he could get within 12 of my Warlock Engineer, he would have been able to shoot him and just kill him dead. Severith has the ability to run and still shoot, so he can redeploy and then spend that CP to shoot you anyways. So I'm making, with this bubble, the clan rats are going to be the closest target to him. He's not going to do 20 damage, so my battle tactic's going to be safe. For the Jezzails, we just let them stay where they are. They get +1 to hit if they don't move. And that's why we deployed them on the board, is because we were going first. I know they're going to be safe, and I want to get that +1 to hit. Then the Master Molder, we move him down this way. We're going to jump him into this gnaw hole and send him over that way at the end of the move. And then for the Warp Seer, I'd actually deployed him on this side. And we leave him just where he is. He's not going to be able to get into charge range and hit a reliable charge this turn. So we're keeping him back just to try and help screen out these Jezzails for when he comes down after him. That takes us to the end of the move, and I got to do all my end of move things first. So I teleport the Master Molder over here onto this objective. And then we Deep Strike in the Hell Pit. I end up leaving the Storm Fiends in Deep Strike. We're going to try and pop those up during his turn to maybe try and deny battle tactics. So it's just going to be the Hell Pit here. We have him in combat range of the Master Molder, so that he's going to get +2 to his charge roll here from Deep Strike. And setting him down, I made sure to stay just outside of 9 of these Kangaroos and also the Stone Guard. That way if he redeploys one, I'll still be able to have a short charge into the other. Now that I'm all the way done with my end of move, my opponent, he chooses to redeploy, and he redeploys these Kangaroos 4 inches. Then we go to the shooting phase. I have the Jezzails. And looking at it, the Stone Guard, while they're on the objective, have a 5-up ward. And since he failed Protection to Hish, these guys do not have the ward. So I could just dump everything into there, hope the Hell Pit goes in as well to crush the squad. The only risk I'm going to take is if I kill a few, it'll make the charge 1 inch longer. But I've got that +2, and shooting anything else, like the 5-up ward, I'm not going to do much. Kangaroos, I can only get maybe 1 or 2 Jezzails into. So we go ahead and shoot the Jezzails into those guys, and we kill 3. Notably, those guys also ignore 1 rend in the shooting phase as well, so they can take the hit pretty good. Takes us to the end of the shooting phase, and for his covering fire, I don't have anything within 12, so he can't shoot me. So we're going to jump straight into the charge phase. For me, it's just the Hell Pit. We roll the charge, we roll a 9, +2, 11 inches. Hell Pit's in. I put him all the way leaning towards this side, just outside of 3 inches of those Kangaroos. And that is just in case of a counter charge. If I had gone here, these guys, that's a very easy counter charge. Where now he's still going to have a 7 or 8 inch to potentially make it in. So end of charge phase, he has the opportunity, and he chooses not to. Just that it costing 2 CP is a really big deal, and you want to have CP in your turn to do stuff too. So we jump straight into combat. I've got my Rampage. To every model in his unit, I can roll a dice, and on a 5-up, I do a Mortal Wound. But it triggers on a 3-up, so I roll the dice and I don't get the 3-up. So we just go straight into the regular fights. We go for all-out attack on the Hell Pit, because he's normally hitting on 4s and 2s. That takes us to 3s and 2s. And then he has Anti-Infantry 1, which means for his Rend, he's going to get an extra point of Rend, which takes him from Rend 2 to Rend 3. We swing everything in, and we kill the whole unit of Stone Guard. And then that's the turn. We go to scoring. I get 1, +2, +2, so 5. And then my battle tactic was to stand here in the middle. Got it, so 9-point first turn. And we'll jump over to Lumineth, bottom of 1. For Lumineth, his battle tactic is going to be Do Not Waver. And that's he has to fight with 2 units and not have any of his units die. His hero phase, he goes for Protection of Hish and gets it up this time, so he'll have a 5-up ward. And then we go to the end of his hero phase. And that's when I get to proc my 3 Claw Steps ability, which is new. And this, I get to pick any one of my units on the board that is not a monster, and I can do a normal move with them. Then the Warp Seer gives that +2 inches. And so what we do is, I don't want him just bringing those Stone Guard down and killing all of my clan rats. I kind of want him to go fight that hell pit, and then maybe I'll roll that 5 up to stay alive and get some value there. So I end up moving the clan rats down 8 inches. And again, we're doing that. We're trying to help screen out these Jezzails. Just Severeth and those kangaroos, they move so fast. If they want to shoot me, they can. But at least this will keep them out of the charge and keep the clan rats away from the stone guard. And from there, we go to the movement. And so first up, he moves the stone guard over this way now towards the hell pit. The stone mage runs over here to this side of the objective to get out of the way. And then Avalanor also moves towards the hell pit. And this battle tactic is really good for Lumineth because in the combat phase for their army abilities, they get to fight with 2 units in a row. So between the stone guard and Avalanor, the hell pit's probably toast. Next up is Severeth. He can move 18 inches, so he zooms. Ends up right down here. Then the squad of 10 kangaroos, they run. Because as long as they end up whole within 12 of Severeth, they can still shoot and charge. So they run and come down here to the middle. And then this squad of kangaroos moves up here towards the objective. And he only puts 2 kangaroos on this objective. But again, that's because he can shoot and then move again. So he was stringing them out this way to now where my hell pit, if I wanted to go for a redeploy, I can't. And then after he shoots, he can move these guys and fix it. And then my time for redeploying has already gone because I have to do that at the end of the move where he's going to move in the shooting phase afterwards. So that takes us to the end of the move, and I do redeploy my Jezzails. And the reason why is I am within 12 of these guys here in the front, so I'll be able to get out of 12 of those no matter what. Then with Severeth, if I hit like a big 5-inch redeploy, I can get out of Severeth's shooting range as well. But I roll the dice and I get a 3, so Severeth is still going to be able to shoot me. So then we go to the shooting phase. Severeth shoots into the Jezzails and does 8 damage, which kills 4 of them. This squad of kangaroos shoots at the Master Molder and only does 2 damage. And then this squad of 10, he splits attacks between the Master Molder and the Engineer and kills both of them. Then at the end of the movement phase, he can move all of his kangaroo stuff again. And so for Severeth, he sends them over this way just to get out of harm's way. The 10 kangaroos, he pushes back, just getting onto his objective to make it harder to take next turn. And then these kangaroos, since he ended up killing the Master Molder, he does take the objective and he just lets those stay still. So at the end of shooting phase, I could covering fire with my 2 Jezzails, but that's not going to be worth the CP. Like, if I max out, I'm going to do 4 damage or something. That's just not worth it. That takes us to the charge phase, and he charges in with Avalanor and makes it, and also charges in with the Stone Guard. So into the combat phase, we do combat abilities first. The Hell Pit, he goes for his Rampage onto the Stone Guard. We roll our 3 up this time, and we kill 2 Stone Guard with his Rampage. Then we go to the actual fights, and he fights with Avalanor first. He all-out attacks, and I all-out defense, and he does 10 damage to the Hell Pit. Which is great news for me. That means that if the Stone Guard kill the Hell Pit now, I'll get to roll on my 2 horrible to die chart. And if I get that 5 or 6, I'll stay alive and be able to get some more value. But Lumineth, they get to fight with those 2 units in a row, so boom, the Stone Guard fight. They do kill the Hell Pit. I roll my dice, and I roll a 1, which means nothing happens. Hell Pit's gone. One thing I forgot to mention was, at the end of the movement phase, I did bring in this squad of 3 Storm Fiends. And I put them there just to double down on this objective to prevent him from scoring 9 this turn. As well as next turn, I would be able to move 6, and then boom, be able to make a play on the objective onto that Stone Mage. And so when he moved these guys back, it was doubling down on that objective and to help protect the Stone Mage. But from there, it's the end of the turn. We go to scoring. He's going to hold just his home in this one for 3. But he did get his battle tactic of fighting with 2 units and not dying. So he's going to score 7 points. Then we got a priority roll. And I win the priority. And I decide to take the turn. So here we go. Skaven, top of 2. First up is battle tactic. And I go with Do Not Waver. And again, that's just fighting with 2 units and don't have a unit die. For the spells, we go for a spell onto the Stone Guard to give them a 1d6 charge. And we fail. And then he goes for a counter spell again and gets an Overwhelming Heat. And this is one I didn't expect, but again, with 4th edition, there's so many cool tools for denying battle tactics. He knows that I wanted to use one of my charges to fight with these Storm Fiends. And so he does Overwhelming Heat, which halves my movement. So now these guys, instead of moving 6 up and having an easy charge, they're only going to be able to move 3. Good move. I end up spending 1 of my CP to rally, and I get 1 Jezzail back. And then we go to move. I do move these Storm Fiends, my 3 inches this way. And Now that that happened, my plan was just to have those guys charge and the Warp Seer charge. But I know that he can still redeploy to make that charge even longer. So I ended up moving these clan rats up, which I didn't want to do, but just to give me an extra attempt at a charge to score my tactic. So they move up 6. Then the Warp Seer moves up his 10. I missed that 12-inch movement. The Jezzails, they stay still to get the +1 to hit. And that takes us to the end of the movement. And I go in and I bring in my other squad of Storm Fiends from Deep Strike using that Warp Grinder. And again, I preferred using that in my opponent's turn as a cool tool, but just in case from a battle tactic, I have to hit 2 charges here at least, so we're just giving ourselves another chance at it. And so we set them up over here. They're going to be 9 away from the Kangaroos and also Sebrith. Again, with redeploy, you need to have 2 things in range just in case they redeploy 1 away. And now, like, if I hit the charge into here, I can take this objective. Great. If I make the charge into here, if there's a world where I kill Sebrith, that's an awesome world to live in, so we'll give ourselves a shot at it. Then it goes to his end of move, and he spends a CP to redeploy the Stone Guard and gets a 5-inch redeploy. And that play was, he wanted it to be where if I made a charge with my Warp Seer, I'm also going to have to engage his Stone Guard now. If they get the extra rend from the Stone Mage, there's a world where they could kill this guy. And so if he does kill one of my units, I fail my battle tactic. So he's just banking on that happening for him. For shooting, we shoot into the Kangaroos over here, and we kill 1. The Warp Fire Thrower over here shoots into the Kangaroos as well and doesn't do anything. Then over here, I elect not to shoot. I'm not within 9 of Sebrith to shoot him, and I don't want to make my charge longer here, so we just don't shoot with this Warp Fire Thrower. End of shooting, my opponent spends a CP on Sebrith to shoot. Shoots everything into the Storm Fiends here to try and do some damage, and he does 3. For wounds now, you don't have to locate to the model specifically. It just goes to the unit. And then later on, once they've taken enough damage to where a model dies, I can just choose whichever one I want. Huge quality of life upgrade there. From there, we go into the charge phase, and I start out with these Storm Fiends, and they do make it in. And we left a little bit of room over here for the Warp Seer. In case I hit a big charge, I can get outside of 3 of those guys anyways. And with the 3-inch combat range now, like, they can fight in 2 ranks. They'll be good to go. Then we start with the Storm Fiend charge down here. This one, if I can hit it, it's a 2-point swing because I could take this objective. So we roll for the charge. We fail it. We spin the CP, re-roll it. We fail again. We go for the Warp Seer charge now. He needs a 4. We roll a 3. He fails the charge. Clan Rats was our last backup plan. We put him out there just in case. Roll the charge. Fail. Battle tactic failed. So then it goes to my opponent, and he could countercharge those Stone Guard in, but he knows I've already failed my battle tactic. He's going to save his CP for his turn. And the Warp Seer has a Rampage on a 4-up. I can make him fight last. So if I hit that, I'd be able to take a good chunk of those Stone Guard out where they wouldn't do much anyways. So just regular combat stuff. We go with the Storm Fiends. We give them an all-out attack so they can go from 4s to 3s for the hit rolls. And we do 12 damage, which kills 4 Kangaroos. And I forgot to mention, in the hero phase, I am running the sub-faction for Molder. And what that does for me is I get to pick 3 non-hero Molder units on the board. So it was those Storm Fiends and roll a dice. On a 3 or 4, I get to add 1 to their attacks characteristics. And then on a 5 or 6, I get to add 1 to the attacks, and they gain a 5-up ward. In this turn, I only got the +1 attacks, which again, we were going to send them into the Kangaroos anyways, but it helped get a couple damage through. Goes to his turn with the Kangaroos. He piles in just slightly, attacks, and does 2 damage to the Storm Fiends. And then that's the turn. I'm going to score 1 for my home objective, 2 for the Clan Rats over here on this one, and that's it. We got a 3-point turn going into Lumineth, bottom of 2. So first up is the battle tactic. He chooses Take Their Land, which is to control a terrain piece in my territory. And he chooses the Gnaw Hole over here. His plan is to send Sebrith down, kill these Jezzails, and then just stand next to it. So we go into spells. The Stone Mage goes for a protection again, trying to get that ward back up, and fails to get it off. And then end of hero phase, I spend 1 CP, and I rally back another Jezzail, just trying to get another body on over here. But then the big one is, I get to do my 3 Claw Steps move at the end of the enemy hero phase. So I know this is his tactic, so boom, we're going to move 8 inches back this way. Then from there we go to movement. He starts out by sending Sebrith all the way down this way. The Stone Guard shift this way. Ablanor moves over here onto the objective. Then the Kangaroos move down this way. It's important to note at this point I only have 1 CP left, so there's no danger of a counter charge. So he can get as close as he wants here, and That's something we'll add to the channel. We'll get a little CP tracker going for the next one. Then the Stone Mage, he just backs up a little bit. And that takes us to the end of the movement. For me, I redeploy the Warp Seer. I don't want the Stone Guard and the Cow to fight me. So if I can get away from them, that would be excellent. So we roll it and we get a 2-inch redeploy. Go over to the shooting phase, and these 5 kangaroos, they end up shooting the Warp Seer, trying to ignore that ward, and they do 4 damage to him. These kangaroos can shoot in combat, and so they kill 1 Storm Fiend. We end up taking the Warp Fire Thrower out of there, leave the 2 melee guys. And then Severeth ends up shooting the Clan Rats. And that's just, he wanted to shoot the Jezzails, but now that his tactic's in jeopardy, he wants to do a big chunk of damage here, then charge Severeth in. Severeth counts as 5 on an objective, which also means 5 on terrain. So if there's a world, if he can clear these Clan Rats, he will score his tactic, outnumbering the Jezzails. But he shoots in and does 10 damage to the Clan Rats. And so for me, I know I'm going to get D3 Clan Rats back at the end. So I make sure to leave at least 4 over here to contest it and still have some on the objective. I don't want him to take this objective and to get 5 points for that. So just playing both angles. Then after he shoots, he can move. So he moves over this way. Outside of 3 inches of the Clan Rats. I didn't have any CP to covering fire, which he knew. The Cow has also been doing his shooting attacks. He just keeps missing. And then we're going to go over to charge phase. Severeth charges in. And at this point, he doesn't have CP either. He tries for the Stone Guard and fails. Tries for Avalanor and fails. So charges just not happen in this game. Severeth has a Rampage where he can do D3 mortal wounds, but he rolls a 1 and doesn't do it. He fights in and kills 3 of the Clan Rats. Then his Kangaroos get to go as well. They fight and they spike and kill 1 Storm Fiend. Then the 1 Storm Fiend fights back, has the best day of his life, and does 8 damage, which kills 2 Kangaroos. Clan Rats pile in and fight. We just make sure we got 5 of them on this terrain piece. And they do 2 damage to Severeth. They have an ability now where they auto wound if they roll a hit roll of 6. And so I just spiked there and had like 4 or 5 of those go through. But from there we go to scoring. He's going to hold 1. Extra 2 for here for the side objective. But then he fails his battle tactic on this end after I get 2 Clan Rats back. Which means Lumineth only scoring 3 this round. Then looking through my notes, these Kangaroos, they did move backwards after they shot. From there we go for a priority roll. And Skaven, I win the priority roll again. So far for 4th edition, there's not a whole lot of advantage to giving the turns away. Like if you take a double, you can't score a battle tactic. But if I give it to you, you still get to score a battle tactic. So it seems better in most instances to just take the turn. But that's something we'll feel out as we play more games. So we'll go into Skaven, top of 3. First up's my battle tactic, and I'm going to do the control a terrain piece in his zone. I could have done it last turn and just going to run these Clan Rats over there to that hill. But that's it. We go to cast our spell. We're going to put a 1d6 charge on that big cow guy if we can. Roll it, and I miscast, and we take 2 mortal wounds. We roll our Molder abilities, and I do 2 damage to myself over there on this Storm Fiend up top. And then these guys, I rolled a 6, so they've got a 5-up ward and +1 to their attacks. That's great. Into hero phase, the Lumineth player, he spends a CP to cast protection. He failed it during his turn, so he's getting another shot at it, and boom, gets protection to Hishup. So everything over there is going to have a 5-up ward. And that's just a really cool move for armies that have like defensive spells. That's a cool opportunity to get a second try at it if you fail. So from there we go to the movement phase. And the Warp Seer is just going to move over here, outside of 3. These Storm Fiends move 6 inches over this way. And this here is I'm just getting a couple extra bodies on this objective. I know I'm not going to be able to take his home objective, so reinforcing this one, good idea. If I had a long bomb charge into Severeth, that would be sweet. But even when it goes into his turn next, I could 3 claw steps these guys and like make a screen. They got that 5-up ward. We can try and keep them off of this one. These Clan Rats just run over here to score my battle tactic. And then this Storm Fiend over here, we just leave him in combat. We got to plan for him later on. End of movement, my opponent redeploys the Stone Guard and gets a 4-inch redeploy. And he shifts them over this way. These guys, they only move 4. So getting a 4-inch redeploy, he just doubled their movement. And that's going to let him make a play on this objective next turn. We go to shooting. I shoot into Severeth now that he's in range, but we only do 4 damage. From there we go to the charge phase, and I try to charge these Storm Fiends. I don't spend the CP to reroll it. Just, you want to save your CP. I want to be able to have the threat of counter charge next turn to do stuff. But we do hit a charge with the Warp Seer, and we send him way over this way. We want to get away from that cow. That's it for charges, so we go to the combat phase. I rampage and hit my 4-up fight last over here, which is cool. So I start the combat out with this Storm Fiend. And I pile in to get within 3 inches of these Stone Guard. And that's because I actually want this guy to die. At the end of my turn, I can spend a CP and bring 2 of them back to life. And just over there, he's not going to do much. He's going to die next turn, where if I let him die now, I'll be able to boom, put a couple Storm Fiends on this objective to help reinforce it. So pile him in there. I put all the attacks into the kangaroos, and I do 0. He piles in and fights with the Stone Guard and kills the Storm Fiend. Then also fights with Severeth and kills 4 clan rats. He failed his rampage as well again. Then I all-out attack with the Warp Seer, and again he has the best day of his life and kills all 5 of them. And that one's a pretty big spike. He does 6 attacks that hit on 3s, wound on 2s, and I just happen to get 5 of them through. And they're Rend 2, 3 damage each, so each one that goes through, that's a dead kangaroo. So big swing there. Clan rats pile in and fight. Don't do anything to Severeth, and then that takes me to the end of my turn. I spend a CP and I get 2 of these Storm Fiends back. And then we go to scoring. I'm going to hold 1, +2, +2 for 5. And then I held that rock, an extra 4 points, so 9-point turn for Skaven. We'll go into Lumineth, bottom of 3. First up is Battle Tactic. He chooses Slay the Entourage. And that he has to kill my general or somebody in the general's regiment. The general in this list is the Warp Seer, and with him is the unit of Jezzails. So he's just going to use Severeth, shoot these Jezzails off the board. Should happen. Spells, he goes for protection and doesn't get it off. So end of hero phase, I do my 3 claw steps move, and we build us a little line of these Storm Fiends, just getting all 3 of them on, put them close to these guys to where if Severeth charges, I will be in combat too. Just try and double down on holding this objective. We go to movement, and Severeth just hops over this way, lands outside of 3. Again, he has the ability to retreat and shoot in charge. These Stone Guard move their 4 towards this objective. These kangaroos hop over this way. I had also, at the previous start of a battle round, put down another Knotholf, and it went right back there. So then, in the movement, the Stone Mage, he moved over here to try and fight it and break it. And then Avalanor pushed down the middle here. End of move, I go for a redeploy, and I redeploy these clan rats. We're just trying to get as far away. If he can fail this charge, then my clan rats will live, and he won't take control of that objective, which would be awesome. So we get a 4-inch redeploy. And I really want these guys to stay alive, so next turn I can score Take the Flanks by just pushing those guys out. But we'll go over to shooting. Severeth shoots in the Jezzails and kills them. Battle Tactics scored. Kangaroos shoot down in the Storm Beams and do a couple. Then we go into the charge phase, and the Stone Guard go first, and he rolls boxcars. Stone Guard are in. Then Avalanor comes down for a charge, hits it as well. We're rolling big. Severeth charges in onto these clan rats. Then we go into the combat phase, and he starts out with Avalanor, and he fights, and with the 5-up ward getting on these Storm Fiends, that was a big deal, and he only kills 1 of them. He then fights with Severeth next. He just didn't want a crazy world where, like, if these guys spiked and killed him, would have been awesome for me. He wasn't really worried about clan rats into the Stone Guard. So he fights, but Severeth only kills 3 of them. He's not a melee all-star. Then I fight with the clan rats, and now the clan rats, they get 2 attacks each, and that auto wound on 6s, like, they're not horrible. So they pile in, fight, and we kill 2 Stone Guard. And so with the pile in, I try to get as many clan rats on the objective. Like, just in case if these guys, like, if they only kill 12 or so of them, like, I'll get D3 back, and then boom, I'm going to take that objective anyways. But he fights with the Stone Guard next, and the 8 guys, they all out attack and just totally devastate, kill all 20 clan rats. And that's when I didn't anticipate that. The damage 2 on the hammers, big upgrade for those guys. I pile in, fight with the Storm Fiends, and we do 4 damage to the cow. End of the turn, I get 3 clan rats back, and we go to scoring. He's going to hold his home objective for 1, the side one for 2, so 3 points, and he did get his battle tactic by killing those Jezzails, so 7-point turn for Lumineth. Then just to mention, his Stone Mage tried to fight that Knothole, did 0 damage. We're going into a priority roll. We roll it, and Lumineth, they win the prio. And so now he's got a choice. He can take that double and not score any points for a secondary for the battle tactic, or he can give me the turn. And so he takes a second, looks at it, and he ends up opting to take the double turn here. And his theory is he's going to score 6 by taking the turn, if he can kill these guys, which he's feeling pretty confident about. And I have so few things left, he's thinking it's going to make it tough for me to score afterwards. And so, Lumineth, boom, taking the turn. No tactic, we jump straight into spellcasting. He goes for a speed of hish on his guy just to move around a little faster. Doesn't get it off. Then he goes for a rally on these kangaroos over here. And for that one, you get to roll 6 dice, and for every 4 up, you can heal a wound. So for every 3 of those, he's going to bring a kangaroo back. Rolls all 6 dice. All 6 of them are 4-ups. So boom, 2 kangaroos are back. End of hero phase, I got my claw steps move. So I end up moving these storm fiends 8 inches this way. And this one is, I know he's trying to take my home objective, so I'm getting myself in a position to countercharge onto it to try and make that more difficult. So using the claw steps into a countercharge, going to be A++ stuff to look out for. He retreats Severith out over here by the clan rats. Kangaroos scoot down here towards the action. The Stone Mage moves over here onto this objective. And he does that because my gnaw hole, if I revive something, I can set it up wholly within 6 of the gnaw hole, but I have to be outside of 3 of him. So by doing this, he's just zoning out the objective where I won't be able to do that right onto the objective. Good move. Stone Guard just shift down this way a little bit. And we make it to the end of the movement phase. I go for a redeploy on the Warp Seer, and I roll a 6. And with that, I just use the movement to get a little bit closer to that home objective for my turn when it comes around. And then just staying on it so that these kangaroos can't just walk on and take it. But like, the reality is he's likely going to take this one from me. He's going to score his 6. So controlling this one, not a huge deal. But I would like to keep control of it if I can, so that way I could just walk off in the next turn. We go to the shooting phase, and Severith shoots into this squad and kills one of the Storm Fiends. Kangaroos shoot into this squad and kill another Storm Fiend. Alright, then into shooting phase, the kangaroos shift around a little bit. The kangaroos, they lost the ability to fly, so he can't move within 3 of me. So by having the Warp Seer here, it kept them off. And then this Storm Fiend here is also keeping them from just moving on to this objective. We go to the charge phase. Severith charges into these clan rats. Then just seeing how things have gone, I don't countercharge this one Storm Fiend in. It's just not going to do enough. Then we go to the combat phase. He goes with Avalanor first, piles in, touches the objective, splits his attacks between both Storm Fiends, and kills them both. Then old Severith fights, and he just can't get it done. He kills 3 clan rats, leaving 1 alive. And at the end of the turn, I get 3 clan rats back. But he does score his 6 points. Between the 2, he's got this objective, and the side, and his home. So 6 points really easy. And we're going to go over to Skaven, bottom of 4. So Skaven, bottom of 4, things are looking pretty grim. But we do have a battle tactic, so we do Slay the Entourage. I'm just going to make a play on his home objective, try and kill that Stone Mage. We go for our spell just to slow the big cow down. Don't get it off. Then we're just going to jump straight into move. I move the Warp Seer down here, and we retreat out these clan rats. And for Skaven, I don't take any damage by retreating out. End of move, we hop these guys out over here by this knot hole. Then his end of move, he redeploys this Stone Mage, gets a 2. Charge phase, I charge in, and we hit it. Then into combats, the Warp Seer once per game, he can shatter his Scry Orb. And we do, which does D6 mortal wounds. And we do 3 mortal wounds to this guy. Then in the combat phase, we fight, all out attack, and drop him dead. And then end of turn, we spend a CP, and boom, we get 2 Storm Fiends back. Go to scoring, and I hold his home plus a side one, so 6 points. And I score my battle tactic for 4, so that's going to be a 10-point turn. Awesome. We roll priority next. Lumineth wins the prio and takes the turn, so Lumineth top of 5. His battle tactic this turn is going to be seize the center. Just now's the time. He's pretty much decimated me, so that's wide open for him. And just to make a long story short, he ends up sending Severith down here with the kangaroos. Stone Guard shift down, as does Avalanor. He ends up shooting all of his guys, and he doesn't kill the Warp Seer. I think the Warp Seer lives on 2 wounds. Then he just bounces Severith back after the shooting to score his battle tactic. So he scores a 10-point round, which is great. But the problem of it is that it goes to my turn next. And I've got, this objective is going to score me 2. So even if he does a covering fire, kills the Warp Seer, I'm still going to score 2. And there's nothing in range to do anything about it. Then on top of that, I also have Take the Flanks available to me. So I can just run this unit over here. Run those clan rats in the corner over to the side and boom, score 4 points. Which puts away the game. And just another win for the rats. So getting a win with the rats, it always feels good. And I felt pretty good about this game, just giving you all a good idea what 4th edition feels like. In all the games I've been playing, like, I'm usually dropping a tactic. If somebody does something super clever, like maybe you're dropping a couple tactics, but using those new commands and doing all your new abilities, like, you can still get back in the game, and even if you don't have a lot of models left, you can still pull things out, still score some points, and still get some wins. So overall, just looking forward to 4th edition, getting the full core rules, combing through all that, make sure we get it all right next time, and I think you guys are just going to really enjoy the game. The back and forth and the ability to deny tactics, everything's been feeling really, really fun. So that's it for this one. If you guys ever need any models, check us out at warpfireminis.com. We'll see you next week. Thank you.